This is our annual early college and career planning night. This is a program that we've run for the vast majority of my years here. I'm Jen Nectarline. I'm the college and career counselor here at Central, and this is my 18th year, so we've probably been running this specific program for about 14 or 15 years as a result and a need for our families to better understand this process in the earlier years of high school. So if you've come out tonight, chances are that 9th and 10th grade college and career planning is of some importance to you, and we're glad to hear that and see that because we think it is too. There is nothing wrong with a student thinking about this process in senior year or even junior year. We do a lot of programming around that, but the earlier that you think about this process, the more knowledge you have, the more time you have, the better off you'll be. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. So I want to do a few introductions. As I said earlier, I'm our college and career counselor. I work with all 4 grade levels, but to help streamline that and bring a little bit of sanity to that, I primarily spend my time with our seniors, which I'm in the thick of right now. And then about midway through the school year, so around late January, early February, I'll start meeting individually with juniors. And I don't have a specific caseload or part of the alphabet, so all of my meetings that I have with students are by request. So I'll see any student who wants to be seen starting in January of their junior year. But this time of year, that first semester, I give all of my time to the seniors. And when your child is a senior, you'll understand why. It's a really busy first semester. At this point, our senior class of about 560 has processed over 3,300 applications. So we have about 70% of the class filing applications to four-year colleges. A lot of students going and looking at community colleges and certainly other pathways. And we'll talk about all of that tonight. So it has been a really busy couple of months. And then next month, we're going to get underway and really kick it off with our juniors. But December is a time where we think a lot about our freshmen and sophomores. What can we do for them as we approach the halfway point of the year? So these guys here are your front line. I'm going to introduce them, and you're going to get a chance to hear from all of them. So for our 9th graders, actually, let's see in the audience how many of you have a 9th grade student. Okay, great. So our 9th grade counselors, we've got Caitlin Homburg, Kim Swee, and Taylor. They're the 3 covering our freshman class of 29. And they just came off of the college process last year. So we cycle here at Central, and our counselors focus all on 1 grade level. So just last year, they were working solely on senior year. So they've cycled back down to the class of 29, and they'll carry them all the way through. And then our sophomore team, Kevin Cubberly, Olivia Lombardi, and Adrian Williams. They're covering our class of 28 and helping our students as they navigate their second year here at Central, and they're going to be doing some work with them in the coming weeks as well. We have a counselor who works with our multi-language learners, Mariana Cordova. She couldn't be here tonight, but she has a caseload here of students and helping them on their journey here at Central. And like I said, I'm Jen Nectarline. So our counselors move around. Our sophomore team will pack up their offices next year and head from the 9-10 campus down to this is the 11-12 campus, where their juniors will primarily be. I don't move. I stay put. I have a really cool space in the 800s just around the corner, our College and Career Center, which allows multiple students to be in there at once doing work. And it's been a really great space for our seniors as we're working on deadlines and applications. And now we're going to get into some groups working on scholarships. So it's a really cool space. And like I said, once your students hit that midpoint of junior year, I'll kind of come into the mix with our counselors and be working closely with them. It doesn't mean I won't talk to a sophomore or a freshman. I certainly welcome them every single day during unit lunch, that 35 to 40 minutes they get where we want them to eat and decompress and do their thing. They're always welcome to make their way down to the College and Career Center and chat with me. But at this point, just to work through our junior and senior classes and help them that are closer to the process, I reserve my appointments for them individually. But a couple things that we have coming up this month that I want to get to before we get into the kind of meat of our program is in about 2 weeks, we're going to be meeting with the entire freshman class. So our freshman team and I will be seeing them through their PE class. We work with the 9th grade PE teachers, and we hold group sessions with them in our auditorium. So those are going to be occurring on Tuesday, December 16th and Wednesday, December 17th. So the week before we head on our holiday break. And we'll be seeing the entire freshman class through PE sections, and we'll be spending the entire 80-minute block with them. We're going to be introducing them to some of the concepts and topics we're talking about tonight. So a little mini early college and career planning lesson. And then the second half of the block, we'll be introducing them to a program called SCOIR, SCOIR. You're going to see that on the screen a few times tonight. And that is our main college and career planning software. So if you're thinking tonight, how does my freshman get this information? And I know there's a few students scattered and maybe some watching our live stream. They're getting it. They're going to be getting their dose of it in a few weeks. And then our sophomore team has established some dates in the month of December as well, where they're going to piggyback off of the groups that the sophomores had last year, where they got their early college and career planning lesson, their introduction to SCORE, and our sophomore team's going to piggyback on that and do a career exploration with them through history classes, correct? So everything you're hearing tonight is going to be delivered to 9th and 10th graders in some way over the next few weeks. So before the end of this calendar year, all of this early college and career planning information, as it pertains to each grade level, will be disseminated to them. All right, so those are our teams that are going to be working with your students. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Again, handouts are up there if you didn't grab one. And those of you that are viewing from home, we have a live stream on our Hunterdon Central YouTube station. I just want to let you know that at the bottom of every slide, my viewers at home, and certainly here in the audience, you can use it as well. But at the bottom of every slide, you're going to see a shortened web link. It's going to be an opportunity for you to submit a question. So just type that into any browser on your phone, iPad, desktop, computer, and you'll be able to submit questions, and we'll take a look at those near the end. We try to wrap up our kind of speaking parts by about 10 to 8, and then do about a 10-minute Q&A to get everybody out of here by 8 o'clock or so. And we'll certainly take live audience questions as well. So as things come up, plug them in or hold them till the end. So a couple things we're going to go over tonight. We're going to talk about the why around this. We're going to talk about what's important in freshman and sophomore year, what we'd like our students to be focusing on, what's embedded into our curriculum. And then we're going to break down some topics as they pertain to college and career planning. So what we think is important for a 9th and 10th grade student and their family to kind of put their energy on in these first couple years, everything from activities to academics to thinking about majors, and all just very surface. Like there is nothing to take home tonight and take to your kids and students that are listening, nothing you have to do right now. If you've come out tonight to hear this, chances are you're just curious. You want to know a little bit about the process and what might be involved. And I don't think I asked, how many sophomore families in here? We saw our freshmen, sophomores, so a pretty good split. Has anyone been through the process before with an older child? So you've got a little lay of the land, but I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, we have to go out, run out and do all these things. We've got to visit. We've got to take an SAT. We've got to build a list. These are all just ideas to get you going. And we've sort of tailored this information to what is appropriate at the 9th and 10th grade years. So that's a little bit about what we're going to go over. I do like to cover what the next couple years will look like for you when it comes to college and career programming, just so that you know what is ahead and what's here in our curriculum. So a little bit about the why. I mentioned this earlier. I do think there's good benefit to thinking about this process now. And thinking can be as casual as you want it to be. It's whatever works for your family. It could be a casual conversation around the dinner table. It could be in a long car ride. It could be more formal, like we're going to go on our first college visit in spring break of freshman year. I really encourage you to do what works for your family. I don't ever want to see anyone feel forced into this process. It doesn't need to be that way, but I do think that there's benefit to just starting to think about this a little bit earlier, and we'll talk about what that looks like and where to start. But the earlier you put some time into this, the more time you have to investigate different types of schools, different types of pathways. You get a better understanding of the admission process. There's just a lot of good benefit to putting some thought into this earlier. We also notice that when students hit junior year, the time crunch begins. A lot of times they're now engaging in activities, putting more hours per week into specific activities. They filter down to what's really important to them rather than kind of trying out lots of different things. Junior year, we see a big shift. Sometimes, the driving begins, the part-time jobs begin, the social life may blossom, and all of a sudden your calendar is filled and the time becomes scarce. That spring break of junior year, all of a sudden they're going on an exchange trip to another country, or they're working, or they're an athlete that can't miss practice. And I wish we would have maybe seen a few schools in 9th or 10th grade or taken advantage of the opportunities when the schedule was a little bit lighter. So by thinking about this in 9th and 10th grade, there's a little bit more time time to research. We're not so crunched into junior year to say, we've got to make a list, we've got to make visits, we've got to take the SAT, and all of a sudden it's all there and has to be done in 1 year. So spreading it out helps a little bit and ultimately leads to a little bit less stress. I've seen it in the 18 classes I've worked with here. The students who started building a list in SCORE or the previous program we used to use for college and career planning, when they started in freshman year, maybe took a visit or two in 9th grade, maybe 3 or 4 visits in 10th grade, took the PSATs seriously. Those students who put that time and invested that time felt a lot more ease in senior year, felt like the planning was worth it, and it brought them to a senior year where they could actually relax a little bit and not panic and stress. I will tell you, we do quite a bit here in junior year to get them ready for senior year so that when they come back in September, it's not a crunch. It's not, I have to start my applications. We give them all the tools in junior year to start that process before senior year. So I think we do a lot here to reduce it, but it's all about what our students decide to take advantage of. So this is the biggest question I get is, how do we begin? Where should we start? And chances are, if you're here tonight, you're curious about where to start. I really think this is a family decision. I think it's starting with what is most comfortable for your student and what's most comfortable for you. If pulling teeth and dragging them in the car to go see a college is what you're thinking, then that's probably not the best route to take. You take them when they're ready. If they're not ready in 9th or 10th grade, that's perfectly fine. If junior year, you know they want to go to college, but they're still not putting that effort in, that's where it's not a bad idea to loop us in and allow us to be part of the conversation and try to figure out what the best approach would be to college planning. But you start where it's comfortable for you. It could be a dinner table conversation. It could be a conversation in the upcoming holiday weeks where families getting together, and all of a sudden there's a high schooler in the family when maybe all the cousins are little, and the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents, well, what are you thinking about for your future? And then all of a sudden they start to sink into the couch and go, I wish I wasn't the high schooler anymore, and it can get a little bit overwhelming, but even that is a level of planning. Even those conversations are a level of planning. So we're going to talk about some of the tools that we need to get there. Don't let this list overwhelm you. You don't need everything on here, but we have found our families that have successfully planned early have started with some of these items. First is a little bit of organization and some kind of timeline, and I'll break those down. Organization is also different for everybody. Your student may start to receive emails from colleges, and you wonder, how'd they get on that list? Oh, maybe they took the PSAT. Maybe they filled out a questionnaire somewhere along the way or came to the college fair and filled out a few inquiries with schools. They're going to start getting emails. They might start getting things in the postal mail. They may start to just hear the words college and career and post-secondary, and all these things start coming at them, and they think, how am I going to organize myself? Well, we have a system here called SCORE, a great place to keep a list of interesting colleges, to keep a list of interesting majors, to just kind of keep notes. And also at home, you do what works for you. Maybe it's a spreadsheet where we say, okay, the spring break of your sophomore year, we've reserved to start seeing some schools. Or, this one summer, we've got a couple weeks open. Let's go check out some schools. Or let's look ahead to the academic calendar and see, when is school closed, but college campuses are open? Maybe we should earmark those days. So just starting some type of organization that works for your family. Sitting down and developing a realistic timeline. Are you ready to start seeing schools? Okay, well, let's see what's going on over this next break or these next couple of months and see where mom and dad can take a day maybe from work and you can take advantage of visiting a college. We do offer excused days to visit in junior and senior year. Those are excused days, 3 per year, not in 9th and 10th grade, but there's also several days where we have off. There's in-service days where colleges are open, we're closed. And there's a lot you can see within about an hour to an hour and a half of our school. And with school letting out at 2 o'clock, that's a really manageable afternoon visit. So just thinking about a timeline, thinking about what works for your family, and just sitting down and kind of organizing where you want to be and when. Building some good habits around the process. I mean, that's not just around the process, that's around high school. We're going to talk about habits when we meet with our freshmen in a couple weeks and just give them some reminders about good positive adjustment to high school. This is very different from middle school. Everything from the workload to the campus to the physical, emotional, mental, social, all of it has changed rapidly for them over the last 3 months, and it will continue to do so. So reminding them of good habits. This is a critical year for our freshmen to build a good foundation. It's an important year for our sophomores to continue, hopefully, the good trends they've been on and prepare themselves for their upperclassmen years. So good habits around this process are going to help you quite a bit. If you're looking for one really good, solid tool to get started with, definitely SCORE. I mentioned it, and I'm going to take you on a demo through that. Just a great place to start with searches. You know, if you've got a 9th or a 10th grader who's pretty invested in this already, thinking, yeah, college is for me, want to be an engineer, would like to go about 3 hours away from home, consider yourself ahead. That is a really good starting home base, if you will. That's criteria. We've got a major, we've got a distance. Now that can change. You know, there might be a night they're not so happy with you, mom and dad, and all of a sudden they're like, get me as far away from New Jersey as possible, and now all of a sudden they're searching for schools on the West Coast. And then, you know, we might bring them back, or they might realize they took a class in 11th grade, and all of a sudden it's not engineering, it's going to be history, and that can change. So SCORE is a great place to continuously do searches, save searches, build lists, allow your counselor to see the work that you're doing. We also think that just simply exploring majors and careers and understanding that there's more than like a dozen things out there to do. I still have this conversation with seniors who all seem to fall in a pocket of about 12 different majors. You know, we've got a lot of business, we've got a lot of STEM, we've got a lot of health professions, we've got psychology, but you look at a school like Rutgers, our state university, and you look at these lists of 150 majors, and all of a sudden they realize, I didn't even know I could do that. And so when you're a 9th or 10th grader realizing there's a major in public policy, well, what even is that? What is that going to lead me to? So you're going to hear a little bit more about majors and careers and see some places you can go to further investigate. What is a major even? What is a career? Are they the same thing? Well, not necessarily. What you study in college may not be exactly what you're doing for your paid profession. So just having those conversations, allowing your children to shadow you, your colleagues, your friends at different fields, just exposing them to what the opportunities are that they could study. Another really good tool to get going with this process is something that's probably underway for all of the freshmen. Certainly for the sophomores, that's going to be their 4-year plan. You're going to hear from our grade level counselors to talk a little bit about the 4-year plan, about scheduling, another really critical tool in this process. After 9th and 10th grade, the opportunities for electives here really open up. And I've said it before, I think our program of studies rivals a small college. I mean, we have endless course offerings here to the point where sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming. What do I take? I really want to use high school to explore and see different things. This is another just simple conversation to have around the table. Hey, there's classes in law, there's classes in STEM and design, and there's so much offered here, which is, I think, one of the wonderful things about Central among the many things. But we have so many different courses for them to explore while they're here before they zone in college or in a career. And certainly their major can change in college, we know that, but working with that 4-year plan to make sure they can fit in all those different areas is important. And then last, just aiming to keep an open dialogue. I know it's challenging. I talk to parents of seniors all the time on the phone because that's who I spend a lot of my time with, and they say, you won't believe, Jen, they came home and told me they want to go to California. Is she crazy? There's no way she's going to go to California. I said, well, 2/3 of her list is UC, so we better have a conversation about this, you know, or all of a sudden she wants to apply to schools in London. Where'd that come from? What'd you say to her? I said, well, she came to me and she said she was looking at schools abroad. So an open dialogue, if your student says, hey, I'm thinking about going to school internationally, well, where'd that idea come from? Why are you thinking that? Tell me a little bit more about that. And that's something we're seeing here. Or, you know what, I want to go in a driving distance, and I want to go to a small school. Well, why are you thinking a small school? You know, just having back and forth open dialogue, understanding where their ideas are coming from. A lot of them are just, they've heard someone talk about it here. The lunch table, the locker room, the classroom. It gets really interesting when we meet with the freshmen in the auditorium in a few weeks, and we let them kind of do SCORE for about 5 or 10 minutes, and we sort of walk through the aisles and we hear what they're talking about, and they're all adding schools really far away from New Jersey to their list. It's very consistent. And we think, wow, what is it about 9th grade and 14 that all of a sudden they just want to disperse out, and all of a sudden then they come back. But just be open to what they're saying, be open to what they're asking, loop in the counselor, and then get everybody on the same page. So it's a lot when you look at this and go, well, where do we start? That's a lot. Do what works for your family. If it's something like a visit, this summer, you know you're heading down 95 to the Carolinas or the Virginia beaches, see what the exits are along the way. I love helping with that. Geography, people say, hey, Jen, we're making a trip to North Carolina, and this is usually junior year, you know our child, you've met with them, where would you say we should stop? We're going to take advantage of the time. Or I've got another child who's got a tournament down at a school in Tennessee. Should we tack on some colleges? Yeah. I mean, if you're there and it works in your schedule and your budget and your time and all of that, take advantage of being near those locations. And we'll talk a little bit more about programs we have that'll help expose you to colleges. We've got a great college fair in the spring, a lot of things there. If sitting around and talking about it isn't really for you guys or your family, that doesn't work, then SCORE. Let's SCORE. Encourage them to use SCORE. The freshmen are going to have access to it in 2 weeks. Our sophomores already have access, and if you're like, I still have no idea what that acronym is that she's talking about, looks like Squire, but it's pronounced SCORE, reach out to your counselor or me, and we'll make sure your student has an account. They could have possibly missed their session last year, and it sort of fell off, but about 98% of the class has it. So encourage them to use that. Hey, do a search, and I'd love to see what you came up with, and then let that be your starting point. But there is nothing you have to do right now. There is nothing I'm going to show you. The next 2 slides are going to be about kind of timeline, points we cover in 9th and 10th grade, and I can assure you, through the curriculum that we deliver here at Central, those things are already happening. So don't feel like there's anything you have to do, but these are pretty solid starting points for 9th and 10th grade families. All right, so the next few slides you're going to hear from all of our grade level counselors. We're going to have Caitlin, who's got freshmen, take you through, and then Kevin and Adrian are going to talk a little bit about sophomore year, and then a few other points, and then I'll circle back up here. All right, thank you all for coming out. Again, if you're viewing from home, at the bottom of every slide, we've got a link you can pop into any browser and submit a question, and we'll aim to take as many of those as we can at the end. All right, so Caitlin Homburg.
How's everyone doing? We're okay? We're hanging in there? So I'm Caitlin Homburg. I'm a 9th grade counselor. I have the first part of the alphabet for the freshmen, so I have last names A through G-E-I. So if your student falls in that little part of the alphabet, that's who I serve. And I'm going to kind of go through the 9th grade timeline. This isn't necessarily in order on the screen, but we do hit all these points at some point throughout the year with the 9th graders. We just came off, as Jen said before, a really exciting senior year. We sent lots of kids off to really fun schools and colleges, so it's fun to now come to 9th grade year and see it from the start again and start building those lists and start figuring out what kids are interested in and really helping them to figure out what they're interested in. And it all starts freshman year, which is really exciting. So first and foremost, of course, one of the most important things that we do freshman year is meet your students. And that started, of course, first at freshman orientation, where they met us more in a group setting. We presented to them, so that wasn't individual. Then we met them again when we did our class meeting with our vice principal, Miss Long. And then now, between September and early winter, we're starting to meet with them individually, and most of us are finished meeting with our caseload individually, where we're getting to know them on a really personal and deep level. So we're asking them questions about all types of things. So we're asking them about their likes and interests, we're asking them about their classes, we're asking them about their families, and really trying to get an understanding of who they are as people. So we want to kind of get an idea of what things might also translate to the college application process, but might translate to their classes, activities that we can kind of introduce them to, anything that we can help them get settled into in that freshman year is talked about in that individual meeting that we have with them. The next couple bullet points are also part of that individual meeting as well. So creating that 4-year plan or starting to talk about that 4-year plan, getting involved and brainstorming post-high school ideas also all start to kind of naturally fall into those conversations that we have either in that first meeting or in our scheduling meetings, which we'll talk about a little bit more in slides later on. But we talk about this 4-year plan, classes, clubs, activities, anything that we can help get the student feel more comfortable here at school, but also start to figure out what they want to do post-high school. And we do ask that question to some of the students as well, if they're open to that conversation. What do you see yourself doing? What do your parents do? Do you see yourself doing something similar? Anything so that we can get an idea for maybe something that might interest them, so that we can start this early college application process with them. After that, we talk about taking the PSAT, which all the ninth graders have already taken and should have their scores. If your student does not have their score or doesn't know how to find it, they can ask their counselor. But when they registered to take the PSAT, they got information how to find their score at the end. So if they're not quite sure how to do that, make sure they reach out to their counselor. And then again, we talk about exploring careers and majors with them in our meetings that happen in December, and we talk about discussing college finances as well. So that's another big point that we want you guys to be open to and the students to be open to as well. We don't need to know personal details, of course, about your financial situation, but kind of understanding, are we looking in-state? Are we thinking we can keep this nice and broad and look at private schools, big schools, small schools? Should we start talking about dual enrollment opportunities as they get older? Should we start thinking about Polytech? There's so many different avenues that we can explore, especially for students who might have a niche, unique interest, such as sports, right? NCAA offers certain athletic opportunities for students that start to come up freshman and sophomore year, heavier in the junior year. We have students who are interested in music that might open doors as well. So making sure that students are paying attention to those financial circumstances and also opportunities that are available to them. And then lastly, utilizing SCORE, right? That's the biggest thing that we really want our students to focus on after we meet in December, is making sure that they are walking away from that meeting and using SCORE. Not just using it in that meeting, but using it at home, going on to it when they can, and starting to make it a part of their routine as we move from freshman year to sophomore year and then so forth, because we really do use it very heavily, especially junior and senior year. So now I'm going to pass it on to Adrian and Kevin.
Good evening. I'm Adrian Williams. I have a couple students with the letter F in their with their last names beginning with the letter F, and then mostly G through O. And then this is Mr. Cupperly. He has the beginning of the alphabet.
I have the end of
the alphabet. I just know I have the middle of the alphabet. All right, so this year, 10th grade, we have 10th graders. What does the timeline look like? Right now, what I'm still finishing up meeting with all my sophomores. I've met with most of them. I have a handful left that I still haven't met with. And what we're doing in that meeting is kind of similar to what the freshman counselors are doing with their freshman student, but just more updated, right? So I'm typically asking about, okay, hey, what did you guys do this summer? What did you enjoy? Did you try any new activities? Are there any new things that you're interested in? And then I'll pull up a 4-year plan and I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, is this the classes that you took last year? Are they updated? We'll take a look at the transcript. You'll finally have some final grades on the transcript, because in freshman year, there's nothing on the transcript until the end of the year. So we'll take a look at that and make sure that's updated, the grades are correct. And then we'll kind of look forward into junior year and kind of see if there's an idea of like what kind of courses that you can take, because like Ms. Nectarline said, there's a lot of courses that open up junior year. So we'll just kind of preliminary plan for what courses you're going to take. One of the most important things that I always ask the students in this meeting is, what are the activities or clubs or things that you're doing outside of college or outside of high school? I ask that because we want to see students, and I know it's really important that students get really involved and figure out what they're passionate about and figure out like what are their interests. So some students will do sports, some students will do clubs, and we'll just try to figure out, okay, well what is it how are you spending your time outside of the classroom? we'll also continue researching post-high school plans. So I'll ask, so one of the meetings that I actually had today, I was like, last year you told me this is what you're interested in becoming. The students said that they wanted to be a vet, and I'm like, is that still the case? And they were like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I realized that like it's not as glamorous as I thought it would be. And I was like, yeah. So what are you thinking now? And then they told me what they're interested in pursuing. So I'm trying to help you figure out, okay, what is it that you're pursuing? What careers are you pursuing? I also will ask, okay, what have you thought about college? Are you planning on going to a 4-year college? Are you planning on going to a 2-year school? Maybe college isn't the option. So we're, again, getting into those preliminary conversations about what's post-secondary looking like. So in a couple weeks, we'll actually go into the classrooms, and we're gonna go into the classrooms, and we're gonna talk about different career development plans and different. I'm tripping up on my words right now.
That's okay. Just different goals. I can jump in at this point as well, because one of the main things that we do concentrate on sophomore year is post-high school planning, whatever that may be. That looks different for everybody, and it will change over the course of 4 years. One of the main things that we talk about, and it gets pretty deep as we're getting to know your kids a little better, is what their interests are. There are a lot of kids who aren't doing anything yet. And that comes up in our meetings with them. You know, we are looking to get them involved, because if they become involved, there are opportunities to learn about different careers. At this point, they've been in high school for a year. You know, some kids are working, some kids are doing other activities outside, and that does lead to some ideas about what they might want to do. College isn't for everyone. We know this, and a big part of sophomore year is exposing them to potential careers. One favor I'm going to ask of everyone at home and here is please talk to your kids about what you do, because in my interviews with the kids, I have extensive notes, and a lot of them I always ask what their parents do, and for some reason a lot of them have no idea what their parents do for a living, and that is a huge resource for figuring out what they might like to do. And it blows my mind that, you know, like they shrug their shoulders. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know what your parents do? They're like, no. I'm like, please go home and talk to your parents about their jobs. Please talk to your children about what you do. You know, especially if it's, I don't know, they work with computers. I mean, what does that mean? You know, it's very, very important. So we're going to be doing a lot of career exploration over the next few months and obviously into senior year. So please take advantage of the SCORE program and the career cruising program. I'm talking to my sophomore parents now. Your kids are going to come home with this information, and that would be a great place to start, especially if you're kind of scratching your head and not really sure where to start with them. Exploring careers. Because the main answer to why do you want to go to college should be because I want to prepare for a career that requires a college degree. So that is what I focus on in my meetings. Let's look and see what you want to do. What are your interests? What matches your interests? How do we get there? So that's our plan for the sophomores anyway. All right.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you're still awake out there. My name is Kim Sweet, and I am also one of the 9th grade counselors. I have the middle of the alphabet for the 9th graders. And I am going to talk to you a little bit about the 4-year planning. So when we think about the early college planning process, there's not a lot of things at this point that's in our control. That, a lot of the details of the college process will begin when we are juniors and seniors and our students are moving through high school. The one thing that is in our control at this point is the 4-year planning. So as ninth graders, for any of the ninth grade parents and students out there, we will start that 4-year planning process this year. We'll start to map out what that looks like, and we'll continue to do that as you go through high school. But there's some important factors to think about when we're thinking about that college planning and what is important and what are factors that we should consider. So number one, colleges one of the most competitive parts of the college application process remains the grades that you receive in your core academic classes. So your English, your math, your social studies, your science, your world language, and the rigor of curriculum and the strength of your curriculum. So those are the two things that are in students' control at this point as ninth graders, is really focusing on your grades in your core subjects and what the strength of curriculum is. So what we have to offer students and what you can take advantage of. And we're going to talk about what that looks like. So rigor is different for every student, and that is okay. So what may be challenging for one student may not be for another. We want to make sure that the goal is that we are challenging ourselves appropriately and that we're showing growth without creating unnecessary stress. So that's a conversation that during the 4-year planning process that you can have with your counselors and talk about what your level of interests are and what your strengths are and maybe where you want to add a little more rigor as you go through high school. The most important part is that you are showing growth as you go. So maybe, this year as 9th graders or 10th graders, you took a CP level course, or a class is a little bit, not as challenging as you thought it was going to be. Maybe you're doing really well and you're like, I want to take on a little rigor, and you can move up in the next couple years. That's going to be the most important thing when looking at the overall 4-year planning. Aim to take 4 years of all subject areas. Colleges really appreciate the consistency and having a balance. So having subjects all 4 years of high school is going to help establish that. So a lot of our graduation requirements end at year 3. So taking on a 4th year of a math or a science or a social studies or even a world language, depending on your level of interest, is going to open up some doors and maybe provide you with a little bit of some growth in different areas and make you a little bit more well-balanced across the board. Your transcript should support your college major if you know it. So at this point, if you are out there and you know that you want to pursue something in engineering, then taking some advanced classes or classes that are going to support that engineering background, maybe some advanced math and science classes, or taking advantage of a variety of electives that will support that level of interest. On the flip side, if you're interested in humanities, or maybe you want to pursue something in the humanities field, taking on some rigor or challenging classes or adding some electives that are going to support that level of interest. Again, these are conversations that you're going to have with your counselors during your course selection meetings, which we'll talk about in a minute. And these are things that we can start to look at when we look at the overall 4-year plan. So as I mentioned, it's just important to note that there's going to be movement throughout high school. You're going to be able to add classes and change up your course selections and make sure that it's supporting all of your interests. So that's going to be able to, your teachers are going to be a huge resource in that. They're going to be a part of your course selections in the academic subjects each year. They're going to be making recommendations for you and for your students. So those will be important conversations to have. And I think it's really important to note that this is a very fluid working plan, that things will change as you go through high school. Who you are as a freshman is not who you're going to be as a senior necessarily. So there's going to be a lot of flexibility and conversations, and that's where you utilize the professionals that are here to help you. And we're here to partner with you and your students to make sure that this is a successful 4-year plan. So making sure that you utilize us as appropriately necessary. So Ms. Taylor's going to talk you through what we will be doing with the 9th graders this year for 4-year planning.
Hello there, I'm Ann Taylor. I have the end of the alphabet, freshman. And I do want to just say that Caitlin, Kim, and I have really enjoyed meeting our freshmen, and they seem to have really transitioned really well. So kudos to you all. So I have a really hot topic, scheduling. It's always exciting, and somehow we make it work. But scheduling, we very much try to make that process as least stressful as possible for you all and for our students. So know that we got this, and we are here to support you. So scheduling will begin in probably late January, February. What happens is the teachers will start making recommendations about your students and what class they should be taking in their next year. And then you all, hopefully our students, go on to Genesis and put their elective classes in. So shortly after that, we will start meeting with our students and go through those options, those choices with them, and talk a little bit about why they chose certain electives, what their planning is. We do a 4-year plan with them. We do that every year. So that, like Ms. Sweet said, is very fluid and can change year to year and usually does. But we do that every year because we want them to continuously start thinking, you know, what are my interests? So we always tell our students, please take the time to go on to our program of studies on our website. It's a lot of information, I know, but it's really worth it when they're making their schedule because there's so many electives, and if they read the course description, it really gives you a lot of information about what that class is about. Talk to their friends. Did you like that class? Their siblings who were here before. That is a lot of great information for them when they're making those choices because it's very hard later on to change things up. So we really want them to be invested in what their choices are. Look at the program of studies, read the description, check out if they can take it as a sophomore or a junior. Make sure that if there's any prerequisite classes, any classes they need to take before that class, that they've met that. So it's a little bit of time that they should be putting in, and we are certainly, in our meeting with them, we go through all of that as well. So, but we want them to be invested as in what they're choosing to take. Teachers are a great resource, and we are a great resource. If students are interested in maybe changing a level for the following year, teachers are their first point of contact. They should be talking to them about that. Some students, they want to increase their rigor, and that's amazing and wonderful. But we want to make sure, and our goal as their counselor is to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're challenging themselves, but they're not overly stressed. So that's a big part of our meeting as well. So know that we are here for you. If you have any questions ever about that process, do not hesitate to get in touch with us. And now our Miss Olivia is here to give you some important information as well.
I'm Olivia Lombardi. I'm the new class of 2028 counselor, so I have the beginning of the alphabet A through FR. So just some things on exploring majors and careers. SCORE was already mentioned and talked about a bit. Freshmen will get that within the next few weeks. Again, that's kind of where they'll explore colleges, careers. There's a few assessments. So then going into career exploration, when we do it with the sophomores, we'll take some assessments. That's a really big thing for majors and careers in general, are these assessments, which are great. College Board has some, SCORE has some, and we have other platforms as well. It's a great way to kind of explore what you want, whether I know some of my students, I ask what they want to do, and they know exactly what they want to do, where they want to go, and that is great. So that helps also just exploring majors. What about that major do they want to do? What maybe colleges look for that major? Then there's students who have no idea, which is also perfectly fine. All right, so that's where a lot of these career assessments come in handy, and they're really great. So they kind of help you look, too, on various levels of education. I took a quick 2-minute one today, and, of course, some of the things that came up were counselor, and then my second most popular was crossing guard, because I like to work with kids and be outside. So there's different ranges, but it's great, because it shows different options of what you can do, maybe even things that you didn't realize were a career. So that's something, even again, like Mr. Coverly said, talk to parents. Parents talk to your students about what they want to do, because then that goes into shadowing. Maybe they don't know what to do, or that's something that when I realized I wanted to be a school counselor, I talked to somebody, realized I didn't want to do that job, and what I want to do is this. So asking around, finding people maybe they're interested in, shadowing, volunteering in areas. I know some students volunteer in hospitals, so if you're thinking health, sciences, and anything, that's a great opportunity as well. Things in similar fields. Some other popular majors: computer science, engineering, business, nursing, bio, psychology, health. Some of them are more competitive, so again, try to see at the majors what colleges like to see in that major. There's some classes that they like to see high schoolers take when going into that major, so they have that background. And there's some that maybe more flexible, like psychology is one thing, but just looking into all of that. Yeah, so that's the big thing, is there's various options and programs that you can use. All right.
All right, so a lot of good information. I mean, everything that we're sharing with you all, like when we put up, you know, things to do in 9th grade, things to do in 10th grade, all of that is embedded into a very comprehensive curriculum that I'm really proud of that we have here. I mean, we've got activities at every grade level. We have activities at every month. There's quite a bit going on, and coming from our counseling department here, a lot of really good work that we're all really proud of. So if you're thinking back, like when I go back to these slides and you're going, did we do all this? Are we doing all that? Yes, it's embedded in the work that we're doing every day. The 4-year plan, what Liv just talked about with the Exploring Majors and Careers, all of this is embedded in the work we're doing. We're mentioning it to you tonight to gain an understanding of this is all leading us to helping them discover, find, create their best path after Central. So it's not like we kick off senior year and go, let's start planning life after high school. It really is part of all the work that we do here every day. So I'm going to pick us back up on activities here and get us through the rest of our slides. Again, if you're watching from home, we've got a great group watching on YouTube. Thank you. At the bottom of every slide, there is a link. You can type it into any browser, submit a question, and I'll get to those at the end. And of course, in here, we'll take live questions and submissions there as well. We got a few already coming in. So I want to talk a little bit about activities. This is the one where I could probably do a full 90-minute evening program on, because I get on my soapbox about activities. I think this is such a critical part of their high school experience. You know, not every single student is going to thrive in the classroom, and they're still going to do really incredible things when they leave here. And that is because outside of the classroom is where they've put a tremendous amount of time, passion, energy, expertise. Now, it doesn't downplay how important their academics are. I mean, you saw when Kim was up here talking about it, it remains the most important factors in college admission is the courses, the grades, strength of curriculum. These are important too. There are going to be schools that look very holistically at applicants and take a deep dive into their activities and the things that they bring to the table, the things we teach these terms to our juniors and seniors, but what we call hard factors, soft factors. Hard factors in admissions, the concrete stuff, the black and white, the transcripts, the grades, the scores. This is the soft factors. This is the stuff that really makes them whole. The reality is not every student coming out of Central and getting into college has a 4.0 or higher AP and honors classes and straight A's. And our students do really, really well in the college process all over the GPA board at all levels of curriculum. And the reason is these colleges that take a deeper dive into what they're doing outside the classroom. Maybe the academics have struggled because they're working 25 hours a week at a local fast food restaurant to help their family financially. Maybe they're not able to engage in a whole lot of tutorial to bring up their algebra grade because they got to get out of here, get the bus home to help a little brother off the bus because mom and dad or someone doesn't come home from work till 9 o'clock at night, and they've got to feed them and do their homework and take care of home responsibilities. And I could go on and on. See, these guys know when I present, I get real crazy about activities. I really encourage freshmen and sophomores to take advantage. I mean, the club list here, I talked about the program of studies, rivaling a small college. Our list of activities and clubs is tremendous. I walk through the halls here. Our bulletin boards are covered in beautiful Canva, colorful flyers of all the different things students can do. So if they're coming home, and students, I'm going to put you on the spot, if you're going home and saying there's nothing to do there, there's nothing going on, they might be lying to you. They might be, because there is so much they can get involved in here. And if there is not something for them at that moment, they can find a couple friends, find an advisor, and create it. Every year, new clubs created, new opportunities for students. So I think our resources here are endless. I have the luxury of getting to know high schools all across New Jersey just with the work I do. I have a lot of colleagues I work closely with, other counterparts, college and career counselors, and of course, through my travels, other high schools, and I can tell you we are the best. And I'm a little biased, but I mean, there is so much opportunity here. So if they're saying there's just nothing, there's no clubs, I don't know. There's morning announcements, they mention things. I'm not really interested. There's a lot to do here, and if it's not here under the umbrella of Central, and it's something they're doing outside of school, that's perfectly fine as well. I think students forget, like, when we say, well, what are you involved in? Like in these initial freshman meetings, and they say, well, everything it's like not here. That's okay, right? Of course it's okay. When we start to talk about activities and how we present those to colleges, to employers, to trade school reps, to whoever we're showing ourselves off to as we become seniors, we tell them, everything you do is an activity that you give structured time to, with a few exceptions. Okay, there's a couple exceptions. There's a couple like typical teenager behaviors, like hanging out with friends, playing video games, long naps on the weekend. Like, that's normal. We're not going to put that as activities on our college applications. But your hobby of crocheting or baking or learning how to take apart computers and put them back together, or weightlifting at the gym, something that you give consistent time to on a weekly basis, is going to be presented as a structured activity. And they don't often think about it like that, but activities are really, really important in all of these processes, not just presenting yourself to college, but presenting yourself post-graduation. It could be if you're heading out of here and going right into the workforce, and you're meeting with someone at 18 years old to secure a full-time 40-hour-week job. They're saying, what do you do in your free time? Well, I landscape. That's why I'm applying for a job with your landscaping company. I mean, we want them to stay involved. We want them to find things they're excited about, not things they feel like they had to do. They had to check a box. I have to volunteer because that's what they say is going to help me get into college. Volunteering is actually not going to help you get into college. Engaging in activities you're passionate about is what's going to help you. So we talk about this at all different levels. Ninth grade, it's a lot of exploration. You know, there was an activities fair. They can continue to come out, block 5, check out different clubs and activities, continue engaging in what's important to them outside of school. Sophomore year, we're still sort of in that exploration phase. And when we hit junior year, probably not a bad idea to see them sort of filter down. They might think, oh, you know, I only went to that club twice last year. It was kind of not my gig, but I'm going more for this. And that's where we start to see the filter. And that's where we really push quality over quantity. You do not need a long list of 20 clubs. The college isn't going to believe you anyway. They're thinking, when do you sleep? When do you do all this stuff? Because when we present ourselves to colleges, we actually give things with numbers, hours per week, weeks per year. How much time are you actually giving to Key Club? How much time are you actually giving to your part-time job? And if we add it all up and we figure out you're not sleeping, something's not working. So, and we know you're in school too. So quality over quantity is what will matter. Finding 2, 3, 4 things that you're really excited about and letting those be your things. You don't have to join every club and think, this is going to look great because I'm super involved. Colleges, they see through the padding of a resume, if you will, okay? And don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You know, oh, my friends aren't going to that club. That's not their thing, but I thought it sounded really cool on the announcements, or that flyer caught my eye in the school hallway, and I thought, I should just go check it out. Go check it out. Go check it out if you're by yourself. Just walk in, see what it's all about, and see if it's your thing. So worrying less about what your friends are doing and what everyone's talking about and doing what's important to you, that authenticity will truly come through when they're going through the college application process. And like I said, everything counts. You know, there's students who do come here from 7:30 to 2:03. They get on the bus, they get home because they've got to go to ice hockey, or they've got to go to martial arts, or they've got to go to dance, or they've got to go to scouts. There's things that have nothing to do with this high school, but they're really engaged in them. They're going to babysit and going to their part-time job. Yes, we have a lot of offerings here, but there's a lot that students are engaging in outside of school as well. And I don't have this on here, but I mentioned earlier about home responsibilities, family responsibilities. This has increased significantly, and the presentation of this on college applications has become a lot more abundant, just simply, you know, since 2020, when students were doing a lot more at home. I know we talk like post-pandemic and it's been almost 6 years, but it is much more widely accepted. The family responsibilities, the home responsibilities, the things that don't always fit in a perfect box as a structured activity, but you're putting 10 to 12 hours a week into it, colleges want to know. Employers want to know. Summer as well. You know, they get anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks off. Yes, we want them to be teenagers and enjoy those summers before life really hits them and into their 20s, but summer experiences are important. I've seen multiple colleges ask on an application, fall of senior year, what did you do over the summer? Well, if you didn't do anything, you don't really have a whole lot to share. Maybe you worked, great. Maybe you went on a summer program. Maybe you traveled abroad to your family's, native country. Whatever it is, it's got to be something that you're willing to talk about. I do find in 9th and 10th grade, you start to get these invitations, these fancy, glossy envelopes, usually every year. January, February, some of the counselors will come to me. I'll get an email with a picture in it, and it's this glossy gold envelope. And on the back, there's like a fancy seal, and you open it up, and it's foil print. You have been invited to. And it's usually including the words national, leadership, forum, youth, all these fancy words, and at the bottom, at the cost of $4,995, you have been selected to participate in this program, and you send it to one of us and go, should we do this? Because on the flip side, it shows all these colleges that kids got into that did this fancy summer program in Washington, D.C. We're going to tell you 99.9% of the time you absolutely do not need to do that. That's going to create no benefit to your child in the college process. Those are all marketing. I don't want to say they're scams. They're certainly not. We have had students engage in those programs, but to spend thousands of dollars on a summer program thinking it's going to help with the college admission process, trust us, it is not. If you are thinking about a summer program, please run it by your student's counselor or myself, but they tend to really start coming in 9th and 10th grade because they're trying to catch you in those summers before your student heads off to whatever they're going to do after. So we start to really see them in the underclassmen years, and if you get anything like that in the mail, by email, you think, is this worth it? Should we really invest $2,500 to send Joey out to this campus for a week because they're telling us this is going to help him get in? Please run it by us, and we're happy to give you really honest advice on those. And then find a place to log it all. I mean, I work, like I said, mostly with seniors, and I say, what did you do in 9th and 10th grade? I forget. It feels so long ago. Encourage them. There's going to be a place and score to do it. We show it to all the freshmen, so when we meet with the freshmen in 2 weeks, we're going to show them how to build their resume and score. I'm sure our sophomore counselors will remind them of the feature to do that. If there is nowhere started for that, and maybe score isn't it, just a simple Google sheet. Just putting activities in, dates, hours, that is not something they're going to have to send off to a college, but they're going to have to collectively put all of their activities together into their college applications. So how many hours they've accrued at United Way or the food pantry, those data points are actually going to be really beneficial on their college apps. And when you're a senior, you forgot how many Wednesday nights you went to the food pantry for the last 3 years, but you've probably now accumulated over 75 hours. And that data point presents better than I volunteered at the food pantry since 9th grade. So providing some of that data is helpful, and logging it now is really going to benefit them. So I could talk a lot about this, and we do. We get into this heavily in sophomore year and definitely junior and senior year, really focusing on all the things they bring to the table outside of just their transcript and their academics. All right, let's flip gears a little bit and talk a little bit about searching for schools and visiting. So we got to this a little bit. This is what we talk about. Where do we start? We start with SCORE. We do a little bit of searching. I'm going to take you through that in a moment, but there's a lot of resources out there to search for colleges. We would like everyone to sort of gear towards SCORE. You can get lost in the hundreds of websites out there for searching, but we obviously love SCORE. College Board. So College Board you're familiar with because they run the PSAT, the SAT, and AP. Those are the big programs we use with them, but they also have a pretty massive search engine within. Big Future is kind of their college planning resource. Princeton Review is a solid site. Any books by Fisk are really good. There's a lot out there. Those are just some of our favorites. Obviously, going right to the official college websites, the .edus, great place to do searching. If you're, like we said earlier, there's schools with 160, 170 majors, and you're thinking, well, what does that list even look like? I'd like to sit down and just show my child, what does a list of majors look like? Hit the Rutgers site, the Penn State site, one of these larger universities, and just scroll through, and you're going to see things, you'll probably see parents that go, I didn't even know you could study that for 4 years. So just getting them onto websites, showing them all of this information is going to help. And before I show you SCORE, I just want to touch on that fourth bullet, because we do have families who say, well, we're going to start our search right here with this magazine. It's called U.S. News and World Report, and we're looking at the top 25 engineering programs. That's where our search is. We're taking one of those. And I have to sit down with families and explain to them, those rankings are not really a valid use in the college process. I mean, that's ultimately going to be the 25 most selective engineering programs, not just in the country, but across the globe. And those top 25 schools, well, what makes them top? Is it data points? Is it a survey? How'd they even get on that list? Yeah, they're well-known schools, they're great names, they're Ivy League, they're the best of the best, but says who? So we encourage you to kind of stay away from the rankings and push more toward fit. And we won't get into that a ton in 9th and 10th grade, but we definitely will in junior year. Junior year, we do a whole lesson with our juniors on what is fit. Because now they've kind of dabbled, they've heard some names, maybe they built a list and SCORE, but they're thinking, okay, I gotta get serious about this. What's gonna work for me? Because I'm hearing my friends talk about all these names, but what fits me socially, academically, financially? So we get into that a lot more, but for now, I would encourage you to keep the rankings out of it and just have casual conversations, do searches, have fun with it, because we still have a couple years before we have to get real serious about list building. I encourage you to have fun with it and kind of keep those rankings, if you will, out of it. So let me take you on a little tour of SCORE. Again, it's SCORE, not Squire. We still have seniors that say Squire. And that's all right. So we've had SCORE now. This is officially our 4th year with it, and it's probably the most intuitive college and career planning tool out there. We brought it here after years of another program that was also really, really great, but this just takes it to another level. This really exposes our students to everything from admission data, videos, places to build information. It's really a great tool. And I'm going to touch on this now because as I start to look at the questions that are coming in, I did get a question already. Can parents access SCORE? So I'll touch on that now. In 2 weeks, we're going to introduce this to all of our freshmen, so they're going to get their account. Sophomores got it last year, so 10th grade students have it. If you'd like parent access, one of two ways. You can log right into your student's account, just ask them for the password, and if that doesn't work, you can reach out to your student's counselor, and they can, with your email, just add you as a parent right to your student's account, and you'll have parent access. So that's all available for you. So this is just a basic home screen. I'm going to just dive around and show you a couple things. This tab up here, Discover, allows our students to do searches. So I've done searches, but if I just begin here, really, really broad with 4-year schools in the U.S., but realize, well, that's far too many. And you can just start to narrow things down. Maybe you're interested in a medium-sized school. I don't know, maybe you grew up in Hunterdon County, our students, and are ready for something a little bit different. Maybe you'd like to be, if we plug in our I don't know why this isn't coming up, but our zip code, it normally does. It will give us a certain distance from here, like 100 miles, 400 miles, whatever. But I'm actually going to go with this. So the Northeast, we don't want to be too far away. And just right there, we've got matches. Okay, so now students are looking at this and going, well, maybe I should pick a major. But this is just starting to give us a little cluster of schools to work with. Eventually, we want to get our students here in this section called My Colleges, following schools. This is kind of like when you build a list of favorites on a website, this is what their favorites are. And so by the time they hit junior year, I've got students with dozens of schools in this list. I have students with a couple. What's really cool is that our freshman groups that we're going to run in 2 weeks, these students, these freshmen, I'm amazed. Some leave that group session and have 15 schools on the list. I didn't even know they knew 15 names of colleges, but we're really surprised, and some aren't really sure what direction to go, and that's fine. But ideally, we'd like them by junior year to have a kind of working list here. If college is in their future, they've got a couple names. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of play around here and show you how SCORE works. So I'm going to click here on Clemson. It's been a pretty hot school for our students for a couple of years. In fact, the last few years, we've been one of their top sending high schools coming from New Jersey, so we've got a great relationship with them. And what it's doing is immediately Clemson is pulling up some data based on me. So right now, our freshmen, they don't have a GPA. If they finish a class in January and the semester's over and they get a final grade, that's going to create their GPA. And of course, in June, when the school year ends, their GPA will be cumulative of the entire year of courses. But as you go into sophomore year and junior year, we continuously update GPAs in in scores. So right now, my GPA is plugged in there, my test scores, my SATs are all plugged in there, and it's telling me based on that data what my overall chances are of getting into Clemson. So this is going to be a bit of a reach for me. I've got a less than 20% chance of admission, and this is all factored. It is artificial intelligence. It is doing it for us. So we want that to be a starting point, but we need to be in the picture too. So I might sit with this student and go, well, let's talk a little bit about the major you're interested in. Oh, you're a double legacy to Clemson. Oh, you didn't tell me you have 3 siblings who all went to Clemson. So we start to unravel different factors that might change their chances of admission, so on and so forth. So this is just kind of the surface for now. All right, so we're going to go down here, and we're going to pull this drop menu down. This is called a scattergram, okay? These scattergrams are really great for our folks that are a little bit more visual and trying to get an idea of where they stand in this process. So I'm going to take a look, just because we have so much application volume, I'm going to narrow this down to just the last 2 years, our classes of 24 and 25. And what we can see here is where I am, and where everyone else that was admitted. So we've got our little green dots are admitted, our red triangles not admitted. And you can see as I zoom in, I'm that purple star. Our 9th graders won't have any star yet because they don't have any stats. They don't have a GPA and test scores. Our 10th graders may not have a purple star because a lot of them don't have test scores, but you can use this as kind of a prediction. So if you look up here, our green dots, they're going to be students with a little bit of a higher GPA and higher scores, and I'm kind of hanging out here with some red triangles. So we know that just for starters, if we're trying to gauge what are my chances. As a junior, I know this is going to be a bit of a reach, but as a freshman who's starting at the base level here and is thinking, what am I aiming for? What kind of school? Clemson's my dream school, and I know that to give myself the best chances of admission, I'm going to need to be up in this green area. I just turned on this little acceptance heat map. So once we show this to freshmen, they stop looking at our screen. All of a sudden, everyone's looking down at their Chromebook. It's pretty wild to watch in these groups that we're going to do in 2 weeks. All of a sudden, they're plugging in a school. They're trying to get the idea of the data because they're thinking, I have a 0.0 right now. It's freshman year. We're not even halfway through the year. And this gives them something to work toward. It tells them if there's a dream school and they want to be in that green, they know what they're working towards. So this is why we do a lot of our early college planning. If I was to show this scattergram in this program to students in junior year, they're thinking, well, I'm already 2 years in, 2.5 years in. I wish I knew in freshman year what I had to work toward for these schools that were on my mind. So this is another big reason why we do a lot of this early college planning in 9th and 10th grade. So we can just continue to play around with different schools. I'm going to show you kind of a heavy one. Rutgers, New Brunswick. Obviously, I have a little bit of a better chance of admission, but this is really wild. So let me just shrink down here just to last year's class, because obviously this is our number 1 4-year school. We have a lot of students applying. I have a little bit of a better chance of getting in, but you can see again the higher the GPA and test scores, and that's just part of the process. We talk activities, we talk letters of rec, we talk about all the other things, but you can see if I'm a freshman and I have interest in Rutgers, this gives me something to work toward. This tells me if I want the best chances, where I'm going to want to be academically. So we can plug any school in. If there's a school, not up here on my list, we just go up here, we type it in, and it gets pretty interesting when we're working with the 9th graders. They just a lot of them start typing in really competitive schools because they want to see if our students have gotten in, and yes, they absolutely have. But what we love them to do is if they're checking out a school and they're looking at it is to mark that school as one of their favorites, and it ends up on this following list. And that is such a great place to be in 9th or 10th grade. They don't have to be there. They don't have to be building a list, but it's a great little house of to keep it all in and keep it all organized. And as each year goes on, usually SCORE will update around July with the current class. So our current senior class, the class of 26, their data is not in here because we're still actively applying. We're starting to hear back from schools. All of that data will be official in here in July, and you can see how the next class did. So no names, nothing like that, but data points that really help students understand sort of where they need to be academically. All right, so that is SCORE. I didn't even get into the career exploration because we don't have a lot of time for that tonight, but our sophomores certainly will in the coming weeks. And our freshmen will show them how to use all of that. And again, parent account, reach out to your counselor and they can get you set up with that. Shifting a little bit to visiting. So that's a lot of our searching. Visiting happens when you are ready. Like I said earlier in the program, if it's pulling them into the car. We've got to go see schools, and they're miserable the whole way there, and it's pulling teeth. It's not time. And you are fine to start visiting in another year or two. It doesn't have to happen now. We talk about it though because, like we said, the calendar gets busy in junior year. They're older. They've got jobs. They've got sports. They've got different responsibilities. So if the calendar affords you time and you've got the ability to take a day from work here, or maybe line up your day off with one of our days where we have it in service and they're off, great time to get on a campus when it's alive and active. Just keep in mind that their breaks don't always align with our breaks. A lot of college spring breaks tend to be in March. We're in April, so you don't want to take some time in March and go and the campus is empty. But that often leads me to, well, what about summer? Can we visit colleges in the summer? Yes. If that's your only time to get there, absolutely check out a campus in the summer. I often say try to avoid Fridays because there are a lot of colleges that operate on 4-day weeks in the summer. And if you can make it work, try to see it in late August because a lot of colleges tend to get back and they start to really, the campus becomes alive, and we're not always quite back to school yet. So if you can aim for that later part of August, you're going to see a lot more students on campus. New Jersey's a great place to start. We're loaded with colleges here in the state, public, private, big, large, Ivy League, less selective. There's a lot just within 2 hours. And we have a lot of students who stay in state and certainly a lot who go out of here. I've had parents asking, how many schools do our students go to? And we typically matriculate our senior class to somewhere between 140 and 160 schools a year. So yes, all over New Jersey, our surrounding, our bordering states, but all over the country. And like I said earlier, abroad. I mean, we have students go to Canada. We have students could go overseas. That's a growing trend. So there is a lot out there. And then if you are going to get out and visit in 9th and 10th grade, bring the phone out, jot a couple notes down, students, take a couple pictures, because in 2 years, if you've seen now 12 campuses, they're all going to start to run together. So jotting a couple things down, keeping it in a Google Drive or a place in your phone just to keep track of what you're seeing so that 2 years down the road, if you're applying to that school and you went on a tour, you can pull some things from it, or maybe you'll go back for a second visit, but they will all start to kind of run together. So I encourage you to find a way to record things. And then eventually, for our families, maybe some of our sophomore families that are here tonight or listening from home, you might get to this point. And if you're not at this point in 9th or 10th grade, it's perfectly fine. I'm just talking to those who have started talking about this, have maybe seen a campus or scheduling. This is where we start to sort of formalize this. Now, we do it in SCORE. We build a list, but, we're throwing schools on there that are interesting, that maybe our parents went to, that are playing in the football game on ESPN on Saturday. Those are kind of informal ideas. At some point, when the student's ready, we'd like them to start to really formalize a list. This is really a big junior year task, but if you are, a little bit more ahead in this process, this is what it looks like. When you're ready, a good, healthy college list is going to consist of a couple probable schools, so good chances. Words we might have used in the past would be safety, but we don't use that term anymore. Probable, high probability of getting in, a couple targets, and a couple reaches, with our reaches being no more than a third of our list. And I have to say that a lot to our students because they tend to want to reach kind of heavy and I just want to see what's going to happen, and it starts to kind of overpower their list, and we certainly don't want that to be the case. So the average student here applies to between 8 and 10 schools. They don't have to have 8. They can have more than 10. I have seniors that are into the teens, maybe even hitting the 2.0 mark. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about why. There could be a really logical reason why. Maybe they're applying to a really selective program or one of these combined accelerated 7-year medical programs, and they've got to keep that list long to increase their chances. Or maybe they've got 4 schools on their list, and in consultation with their counselor, we sat down and said, your chances of getting into all 4 of those is excellent. And they say, Mrs. N, I want to be in Jersey. I'm going for education. I've narrowed down to Montclair, Rowan, TC, and J and Ryder. We know they've got a great shot of getting into all of them, and they're just going to see how they do, see what kind of merit money they get, and that's a good, smaller, healthy list. But for the most part, our students are falling in that kind of 8 to 10, 8 to 12 range, giving them about 2 to 3, 2 to 4 probables, targets, and reaches. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's that's a lot, and how do we get there? We'll get you there. That's what SCORE is going to do. That's what advice from us is going to do. And we're going to make sure when they get to senior year, 3 years away or 2 years away, depending on your grade level, that their list is well balanced. And if it's not, we're going to be really honest with them, because we will not set our students up for defeat. And it's spring of senior year and they've got more no's than yeses. That should not be the case, not with the thousands of options we have out there. So SCORE and us will be the ones to help you. And again, back to where we start, a simple search. Pop it into SCORE. What's important? And if your student says to you right now, what's important to me is I just really, really want to be an engineer. That's all I know right now. I don't know where I want to go, Mom. I don't know how far I want to be, Dad. I don't know what kind of campus activities I want. I just know I want engineering. You've got something. Plug it in. Okay, we're going to have a couple hundred results. But sit down with them and say, do you want me to be able to come pick you up on a Friday afternoon to bring you home? Or if we send you with the car, do you want to be able to make it home in 2 hours? Or how would you feel about navigating an airport on your own and I have to fly you home for breaks? Set up those situations with them, and they might go, oh, I never thought about a plane. I never thought about having the expenses, a $300-400 flight to get home for a holiday. I never thought about the fact that I might not be able to just come home on a weekend to do my laundry and eat, my favorite meals. When you start to talk about it in real life terms, rather than, do you want to be 3 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours, start to set up scenarios for them and help them understand that. Hey, how about money? We've saved this much for you, or we've saved not a lot for you. We haven't been able to do that, so this is going to be a responsibility of yours. Are you going to be wanting to take out a lot of loan, or do you maybe want to consider community college to start and transfer? Those conversations are just a really good place to be right now. Just talking about it, because the options are endless. And if you're still feeling overwhelmed by that, loop us in. You've got great counselors here to help you out. We'll dive a lot deeper into it in junior year, but there's a lot to talk about just to get this process going, and we'll certainly help you narrow it down. A little bit about testing, not a huge topic for underclassmen. Obviously, we had our PSATs, like Ms. Homburg said. Those are done. The scores are out. We will probably not see students touch the SAT in 9th or 10th grade. There will be a very small number of students who might sit for an SAT in the second half of sophomore year, mostly depending on their math level. Some of our high-achieving math students might get to that then. A lot of the SAT math is going to be Algebra 2 concepts, so if they're at that point, they might think, I've taken a couple practice questions, I've seen what this thing looks like, I'm going to go for it. But from a reading and writing perspective, the other half of the SAT, they're not quite there yet. So then they might take it again in junior year. Now we've got 2 attempts, and we're going to do this thing called a super score and take our best across multiple test dates. But really, we see most students taking their first SAT or ACT in junior year. Again, though, everyone's plan is different. They might not see Algebra 2 till senior year, depending on their math level, so that's a better time for them to take the SAT. So it's very individual for students, but for the most part, we're seeing this in junior year. We like to mention it so you can plan ahead. Test dates are out for usually the next 2 calendar years. So if you just do a quick search, SAT dates 26, 27, you can see when they're offered next year. You can obviously see when they're offered in this academic year, because they're on weekends, they're on Saturdays, and you have plans, and they've got plans and sports and things and vacations. So earmarking those dates now is good. SAT or ACT, it doesn't matter. They're 2 different tests. A simple search will tell you the differences between them. We are still predominantly SAT. It's really regionally we're SAT, but schools will take either one. And we have students who try both, and their better score on the concordance table is what we'll be sending to colleges. And of course, that's all if they decide to send their scores to colleges. Test optional, that was another question that came in. I just want to read that word for word. That was a really good question about test scores. Are schools still test optional? Yes, there's a lot of schools that are still test optional. There's a really great comprehensive website. I don't have the link up here, but it's called FAIR Test, FAIRTEST, FAIR Test. FAIR Test will give you the most comprehensive, most updated list of test optional schools that do not require scores for admission. And this is a great bet for many of our students students. They'll take this test, they'll try it once, twice, maybe 3 times, and in consultation with us, say, what do you think? Should I send this 1220 to colleges? And we'll look at their overall transcript, we'll look at where they're applying, and we'll help them determine if it's a go or not. And that's definitely a lot more of a junior year, senior year topic. And then, of course, if you want to make an investment in test preparation, you certainly can, but there are fantastic free resources out there to help them prep for these exams. We'll talk about those a lot more in sophomore year. If you have a sophomore, consult with your counselor. Khan Academy is a great place to start. No need to spend thousands of dollars on a prep course. There's a lot of good free resources out there. So again, testing very individualized. I encourage your students to work with their counselor on the best timeline for testing. We won't get into this a whole lot. This is obviously a much stronger topic in senior year. Every year we do host a financial aid night. It's a virtual webinar. If you have any interest in watching this year's, it is posted on our website. It was held back in October. You can find that. If you really want to get a head start and just plug some figures in, the net price calculator, there is one on every single college website. If you have a school in mind, I'll just throw in a private school here in New Jersey. You plug the school in, it'll bring you right to that college's financial aid webpage and their NPC, their net price calculator, which they are required to have on their website. If this is a school of interest for your student, plug your financials in, and it'll give you just an average, an idea of what your overall cost will be. Those are on every website. And then getting to know the FAFSA website, the free application for federal student aid, good place to be 9th and 10th grade, just getting to know how the process works. Our families, our senior year, this year's senior class is applying for financial aid right now. A lot of them began the process in late September, early October when the FAFSA opened up, so you don't have to worry, you're not missing anything right now. That'll be a senior year task. But between the net price calculator, getting to know the FAFSA website, studentaid.gov, you can get kind of an idea of how this process works. We'll talk all about different types of loans, grants, and scholarships more in junior year and, of course, into senior year. But the big question I always get is, Mrs. Nectarline, how do we get the most money? Where is the merit money? Well, there's merit money at every school. They wouldn't survive without giving out scholarships. A lot of students' dream is, I want to get into my reach, and I want to get lots of money. And I have to bring them back down really quickly that that's not going to happen. Getting into your reach, getting in is the reward. Likely getting merit money, that's not going to happen. Where your merit money is going to come from is going to be predominantly your probable schools. Students are rewarded for high academics. So if your student is getting into a probable school, chances are they're at the top of their admission pool. That's where the money's going to be. Now, it doesn't mean that they might not get into a target or reach with a little bit of scholarship money, but if your student is looking to really maximize merit aid, so let's say you've put away a little something or you're anticipating you might not receive a lot of need-based aid, but we need to find a way to pay this bill and you want to maximize your students' merit aid, I would encourage them to apply to more probable schools, and we have students who are strategically doing that and are going to be well rewarded with half tuition, three-quarter tuition, full tuition rides. So getting into a big name and a more selective school with a lot of money is very rare. And I'm just being transparent because I never want to set students up to think I'm going to get into a selective private institution and it's all going to be paid for because I have straight A's. That is not a realistic way to look at it. It's thinking about schools where you're at the top of the applicant pool. You're going to be rewarded for that, not only with merit money, potentially with an honors program or honors college invitation, with opportunities because you're part of the most selective, the most accomplished group of students coming in. That's where they're going to see the most merit money. So we talk about that a lot more as we get into junior year and really start refining our list. And then as you're visiting, ask the tough questions. Let me see the outcomes. Where are students going? What kind of jobs are they getting? Who are you bringing in to your job and career fairs to make sure this is all worth it? It's not worth $80,000 a year of debt to come out with all of that debt and not be able to secure a job, not be able to have the resources to secure a job. So parents, I know, are out there asking the tough questions, not the students quite as much, but I encourage you to ask, tell me what the class is doing. Who is coming here for your job fairs? How many employers? How many students are securing jobs before graduation? So on and so forth. But Financial aid night, like I said, is on our website. Every October, we run that with a financial aid officer, and you can certainly watch that to get a little bit of a better understanding of how the process works. All right, I think I've got 2 slides. Gear up for any questions you have. I want to talk a little bit about what else we do here at Central when it comes to college and career planning. So you've heard about these meetings. Our grade level counselors are going to be meeting with students all throughout the year. These conversations are happening, talking about post-secondary options, talking about what interests them, what activities they're involved in, their 4-year plan. So that's consistent. A little more formalized. Here's some of the programs we have coming up. This is one of my favorites. This is a virtual program, so you can watch from home. We bring together through our admissions panel, I'll collectively bring together, I'm actually started working on this week, inviting people, usually between 4 and 6 admissions officers. So enrollment directors, deans, heads of admission to come together on a virtual webinar. It'll be February 19th of early next year to talk about the process from their lens. Very transparent. I ask very candid questions. We get viewers who tune in that night. They can put questions in the Q&A of the Zoom webinar and then watch it later and go, that was amazing. I've never heard anything like that. And we're getting admission officers together to talk about the process from their lens. So as a 9th grader, it's a lot. We're getting into some more advanced topics. As a 10th grader, a 10th grade family, I mean, anyone can tune in. You start to understand what this process is a little bit more about. I mean, we could go on and on about our resources, but hearing from the other side of the desk about what they're looking for, and I ask tough questions, that's really helpful, all right? 3rd bullet, probably not only the biggest program that we run, probably one of the biggest programs our school runs, and that is we host the Hunterdon County College Fair every year. So it will be Tuesday, March 17th. You can wear your green. And we'll have about 150 schools here. Our fair has consistently been one of the best fairs in the area. We do invite all the local Hunterdon County schools because we are the only college fair in Hunterdon County in the spring. However, the last couple years, we have partnered with our friends over at Hillsborough, and they host their fair Monday night. We host our fair Tuesday night, and usually another school within about 30 to 40 minutes will host a fair Wednesday night. We do that from our angle to encourage reps to all come to the area and go to all these big fairs. But for people who have a conflict that night, kids couldn't get off work or whatever, there's other fairs in the area that week. So March 17th, it'll be all scattered through our hallways and our commons. We put it out to every grade level. It used to not really be something that seniors would come to, but believe it or not, in March, a lot of them are still deciding where to go, and they're looking for those last chances to talk to admission reps, so they'll be there. You're going to see predominantly juniors and sophomores, but I get excited when a freshman comes to the college fair, and we promote it. When we meet with the freshmen in a couple weeks, we're going to promote it. It can be overwhelming, but we send out tips and tricks and how to get themselves ready. They'll be walking around with these things with a little barcode on there, and colleges will be zapping their phone and scanning them to connect with them. They get a full report after the fair of who they connected with. It is like a one-stop shop night, but as a freshman or a sophomore, a really good starting point. Overwhelming to go table to table. You'll get a little bag. You'll have all these brochures at the end. But what a great way to just kind of peruse the tables and go, wow, like look at all these schools that are out here. Your student might have some really interesting conversations with an admission rep, and it might spark something that you've been waiting to spark. So please, please mark the calendar, March 17th. This program tonight is really part 1 of what I consider our 3-part evening series. So every December we host this event, Early College and Career Planning Night, 9th and 10th grade. In about a month, I'm actually going to host our 11th grade college planning night. No reason for you to come because if you come to that, you came to this one before. So 11th grade college planning night that I host here in January, it's always in January, so look forward to that next year if you have a sophomore now. We really start to dive in. We start to dive into the research, the list building. We take everything a step further. And then every September, we host 12th grade college planning night. We have now surpassed the research phase, the list building phase, and we talk solely about the application process. We do dive into that in junior year with our juniors in our daytime groups, but senior year, we're really hitting it. So, and then of course, we've been talking about these groups that we're running. So this month is a busy one for the 9th and 10th grade counselors and myself. We're going to see the freshmen in a few weeks. The sophomores are going to be seen. They're going to get their dose of this. And then in January, I run 11th grade college planning groups with our junior team. And then in September, we ran 12th grade groups. So everything that's running at night has a daytime portion as well. So you're getting your dose of information. Students that are here tonight or listening from home, you're getting it twice. And then when we deliver to the students, it's a little bit of a different spin. You know, obviously we're talking to them and we want to give them a little bit of a different spin on this information. We host college visits here at Central. Those are for our juniors and seniors, but if you're a sophomore, look forward to those next year. This year we hosted about 115 admission reps between mid-September and right before Thanksgiving. They came here during the day. Students signed up on SCORE to get a pass, excused from class to come down and meet right here on campus with a variety of different college admission reps. So great opportunity if they can't get out to campus to engage in conversations. Of course, our financial aid night. We do quite a bit here when it comes to college and career programming. So lots of opportunity. Almost all of these programs are recorded. So if you want to watch old editions on our website, it's all there. And then I'd be crazy to not mention this. You might be sitting here tonight with an interest in your student or students that are here in going to four-year college, but plans can change. And here at Central, we have a little bit of a shift of students that are pursuing other options after high school, and these are what we call our post-secondary pathways. We just finished a really great week of what we call pathways programs, where we brought in RVCC. We had almost 50 seniors in this room successfully apply to RVCC for next year, our local community college, which is truly one of the best in the region. We brought in trade and technical school reps. We had a panel of local business leaders to talk about going right out of high school into employment. We talk about gap years. We have our Polytech program that caters to adults, so graduates come in and talk. So even if four-year college is the route right now, things could change. Maybe it will end up being the opportunity to stay local and do RVCC for 2 to 3 years and then transfer. Maybe it'll be RVCC's career development program and then into the workforce. So please keep this all in mind. These programs are really great. We have military recruiters that come in a few times a year. Some of these will be represented at our College and Career Fair in March, but just know that about 30% of our population is going in one of these directions. And all your student has to do is let their counselor know, you know, I've been thinking about the military, maybe community college. I'm not really sure if four-year college is for me. What do you got for me? And they'll dive into the resources for them, okay? All right, keep an eye on emails. So important. Please encourage your freshmen and sophomores to build good habits around email checking. It's tough for us to get them to look at them, but that's how we disseminate information a lot of times, and you can certainly follow us on social media. Parents, obviously, you know, you're getting your listservs because you're here tonight. This is our college and career planning webpage of our website. It brought me right to it, but right from our homepage, if you just hover over counseling and come right here, this is everything that is coming out of my office and our grade level teams working on different things. All of our 11th and 12th grade info is embedded in. Early college, we'll get everything from this year updated in there. A lot of the things we've talked about, a whole link about how to use SCORE. So take a dive through this when you are ready. All right, so that's a lot of talking. I'm going to take a sip of water. Think about questions. We'll take them. I know we're already at 8, but we'll take a couple minutes to answer any questions. Anything out there while I take a look and see if anything was submitted? Anything out there on your mind? Yes. I love that question. So the question was for those who couldn't hear and those at home about managing expectations for our students who are high achieving, strong scores, strong grades, strong rigor. They've taken advantage of some of our most competitive classes, and they're applying to the most competitive colleges and universities. I manage those expectations, and I can't speak for all of our counselors. We all have our different approaches, but my approach, having done this for almost 21 years, is complete transparency, just complete transparency. And a lot of times I end up seeing a lot of those students, and I'm very realistic with them. I show them scattergrams. I tell them advice straight from admissions colleagues that I have, and I make sure their list is balanced. I say, we can aim for this, but you are competing not only with the best of the best in the region, in the country, but across the globe. Because when you are a school that has an admit rate in the single digits, you can recruit from the best of the best across the entire globe. So when we build that big picture and say, you've done tremendous, you've done everything we could have possibly asked you to do and more here at Hunterdon Central, but now you're competing with everyone who did that across the whole globe. And we build that bigger picture. It's not just in the walls of Central. Yes, you are evaluated in the context of where you come from. In the walls of Central, you've done it all and more. but now your competition is greater. So we try to build a bigger picture, and we try to help them realize you're going to apply to a couple of these. We're going to throw it out there. We're going to see what sticks. But the reality is getting into those schools is incredibly selective. There is a place for you in an incredible honors program at a large university. There's a smaller, little bit less selective school that's going to serve you really well. Just really transparent conversation. And I know ultimately those students might walk out of my office and go, but I really, really want Duke. Like, I'm going to get anything I can to make it happen. I go, well, then let's start talking strategies. Okay, like, we're going to just break it down. Are you considering early decision? What else can we do? Like, I'm going to just get down to it with them. And yes, early decision at highly selective institutions can help a little bit. Outside of that, there isn't a whole lot more we can ask of them. If they've got a brilliant transcript, they've done all the right things outside of the classroom, there's no algorithm. There's no book about it, and if you're reading it, I encourage you to probably not, because after 21 years, I don't have a formula other than I'm going to do everything in my power to help them build the absolute best application they can, because they're up against the best of the best. Great question. I hope I gave you a decent answer. All right, I'm going to take a little peek here at my questions coming in, but anything else from our in-person audience that I can answer out there? Any question at all, folks? I know I had a question in here. I'm just searching for my, all of a sudden I lost my my spreadsheet. Hang on one second here, guys. I had too many things open. But anything out there? Yes, right here.
Any sort of resources about finding opportunities for volunteering or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we get things all the time. I mean, we push them out. I disseminate them through our grade level counselors. I would say, our biggest ones in the area are obviously our food pantries, United Way, a lot of our different churches. What am I missing here, guys? Ms. Homburg, yeah, go right ahead.
You could also start with some clubs here on campus.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So many service-based opportunity clubs that are here, and they help that way. And then if your student is really thriving with the service opportunities, then we can find extra connections. So like Key Club, for example, is a really good opportunity. And then beyond that, we can always research more chances for them to volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those at home that might have not heard the response, I mean, really starting with our clubs here, like she said, and outside organizations. I don't think there's a place you could really go in Hunterdon County and not ask, do you take volunteers? Sometimes they're too young to start working working a part-time job, but just asking around. If you're really struggling, reach out to your counselor or me, because we get a lot of things, all these flyers around of all the different clubs that are doing service. A great place to start too. So I just finally got my spreadsheet up, and there's a lot of questions in here. I'm going to do my very best to try to cover some of these. Okay, well, participation in our school clubs, like the things that we're supporting here beyond transcripts, no, and that's resume building. So our transcript here, and I encourage your students or parents, if you don't know what your son or daughter's transcript looks like, there's an unofficial copy in Genesis in the grading section they can go look at. But transcripts represent the academic picture. Classes they've taken, credit weight, grades earned, GPA, all of that. And that's about it. There's no standardized test scores on there. There's no exam scores on there. Sometimes students think, are my absences on there? No, it's an academic picture. How you'll present those activities is going to be through college applications. So we'll encourage them to use SCORE's resume building feature in the meantime as a place to log all of that. But no, we are not the ones reporting out in any official way the clubs that they've been in. Oh my gosh, there's quite a bit in here. Is it frowned upon for students to have part-time summer jobs rather than volunteer? So I talked a little bit about volunteering as this assumption that it's a checkbox and everybody has to do it. That's not the truth. Every admissions person I speak to, I say to them, is volunteering required to get in? No. Does it look better if a student volunteers when it comes to admission? If it's important to the student, yes. If they feel like they have to do it for college, no. Volunteering is something students want to do because they're passionate about helping other people. I can't tell you how many seniors come in and they think they're doomed in the college process because they've never done a volunteer hour. I go, well, what do? I work. I have to work. I got to work. I got to make money. I got to pay for my own car payment, my cell phone bill. I go, then that's what's important to you. That's what we're going to demonstrate on your college application. So, you do whatever you want to do in the summer that's productive. If it's going out, working at the yogurt shop, lifeguarding, making money, working in a retail store, restaurant, because that's what's important to you, you do that. If volunteering is important to you, then you do that. You do what's important to you, not worrying about boxes that have to be checked, all right? Anything else here? Because I'll take one more in my, yes, go right ahead.
How do you handle a student with social media accounts, and what is the feedback from the admissions office?
Yeah, so the question is handling social media accounts. What's the feedback from admissions? So a couple years back, I did a lot of research on the studies about that, and it turns out that about 1/3 of colleges, this is going back to like 2018, 19, 20, pre-pandemic, about 1/3 of schools were investigating students via social media. So pulling up Instagram, pulling up Facebook, those were the two kind of big ones. Weren't really fully into TikTok and all of those yet, to look at students and to just search their names and see what was out there, Google them, Google images of them. I have found that's a lot less talked about now for a lot of reasons. Number one, admission offices don't have time. They're spread thin as they've lost people in admission offices, and you've got one admission reader who might be reading 40, 50, 60 files a day, does not have time to see if that student's on Facebook. But there might be an activity that pops up, and this is, again, true stories from my colleagues and my friends in admission, where they're reading about a student's activities and they're talking, and one of their activities is they have a weightlifting account on Instagram where they teach weightlifting to other people, and they might think, I'm interested in weightlifting. I'm going to pull up my own Instagram account, and I'm going to pull that up and take a look. Well, it turns out somewhere in those pictures were things that they probably wouldn't have wanted a college to see. And they didn't realize that talking about it means someone might actually go and look at it. So my encouragement, my advice would be keep things clean. I mean, it's out there. It's on the internet. So it could become permanent. So if they've got Instagram accounts, social media accounts, to keep them private, unless they be comfortable with a future boss, future employer, admissions person, grandparents, somebody else seeing it, and they wouldn't be comfortable with that, then it shouldn't be there. But I don't think our friends in admissions have the time as much these days to sit and do a whole lot of that, but it can certainly happen. Great question. So I don't want to keep you all. We're 10 minutes past when I said we would be, and I want to help you all get home and enjoy the rest of your night and your week. So thank you for coming out. Please use your resources. I'm sorry if I didn't get all the submitted questions answered. Reach out to your counselor, to myself. We're happy to help. These slides will be posted because I know some of these dates are important. I'll leave that up if anybody wants to snap that. But we hope to get you here to some of our programs in 2026 in the second semester. But again, use resources, take advantage of what we offer here, and we look forward to working with you in the coming years. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.